Ohio Valley with everyone's pet care needs. Check us out on Facebook at Dirty Paws WHG or call 304-639-7754.
Live and local conversation for the Ohio Valley continues shortly, here on the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
A serious injury from an accident can be just the start of your worries. What if you cannot return to work? How do you take care of your family if you're disabled? At Gelner Law Offices, we represent seriously injured people and understand their problem. We know how to get you fair compensation. We will work hard to make sure you get the money you deserve for your losses. Don't go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
Celebrate the 55th edition of the big game with exclusive 55-1 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook. And if you've never tried FanDuel before, new users can bet on either team and get 55-1 odds. Now, FanDuel has all kinds of ways for you to win. They've got a wide range of options. Big super boosts every weekend, odds boosts and specials all the time. Your withdrawals come very quickly, and it's easy to register, deposit, and easy to find your bet. So download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Use promo code Monroe to get started. FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code Monroe. Brother Biff is betting on Kansas City. He says it'll be a close game, but he's predicting KC to win if you want to get a little suggestion from Brother Biff. So download the app and get started. You must be 21 or older, present in Pennsylvania or West Virginia, new users only, must wager on designated boost markets, deposit required, maximum bonus $275. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-GAMBLER.net.
My little girl hurt her foot and needed a doctor fast, but her physician wasn't available, and I wanted her seen as soon as possible. Then I remembered the Wheeling Hospital Urgent Care, right in downtown Wheeling at the Stone Center on Market Plaza. Open 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, the center is ideal if you have a sudden sickness or injury. The doctors and nurses were great, and they also provided x-rays, a pharmacy, and lab draw station. No appointments needed, and convenient parking is nearby. Wheeling Hospital Urgent Care. They'll take good care of you.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection. Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection.
Kamala Harris, African-American, Asian, woman, Vice President of the United States of America, born in Oakland, California, graduated from Howard University and the University of California, District Attorney for San Francisco, became the Attorney General and also the Senator from California. That ought to tell girls, women, people that impossible dreams do come true. That's not just Black history, that's American history.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster. Weather look at your local weather forecast for your Thursday. A mix of clouds and sunshine through a good portion of the day. Temperatures in the lower 40s for daytime highs, falling back to about 31 for the overnight low. Back into the mid to upper 30s for daytime highs under mostly cloudy skies for your Friday. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
Something to think about, something to laugh about, and something to talk about every day. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe. Brought to you in part by Wheeling Hospital.
Well, there's always something to laugh about because I'm here. Many of you just find that to be funny, I think. Coming up today on the show, Mountain State Legislature back in session next week. Democrats in a super minority. So how do they play that with the supermajority of the GOP? And the GOP has outlined a number of things they intend to do that are probably not going to sit well with the Dems. Delegate Sean Fluharty in a bit later on to talk to us about how the Democrats plan to handle that. Governor Justice expects an additional 3,000 COVID vaccines thanks to a new Biden administration initiative. The GOP is still grappling with how to deal with controversial members. Marjorie Taylor Greene is apparently going to keep her Senate committees, and that will upset the moderates and the progressives. But Congresswoman Liz Cheney also keeps her Senate committee seats and her seats, I should say, and she that will upset those on the conservative side of things. So the GOP is trying to figure out what the heck to do with these renegade members of their party. A rising country music star banned from many radio stations after his use of the N-word. Going to talk about Mitch Carmichael back in government in West Virginia coming up in just a minute with Brad McElhenney. And we've been talking this morning about a story I came across in USA Today yesterday, which I didn't know. The smokers are prioritized to get the COVID-19 vaccine before the general population. Now, I understand it. The argument is that those who smoke are more prone to having lung problems and other types of problems like heart disease or high blood pressure and so on. And therefore, they are more likely to get seriously ill from COVID-19. Therefore, they get a higher priority than the healthy general population. But given how angry people have been lately about not being able to get their vaccine, simply even knowing the smokers are getting a high priority is upsetting a lot of folks. And you can text me on that at 304-214-1600, 304-214-1600 if you choose to, or I have a Facebook post up about it on my Facebook page, and you're welcome to comment on my Facebook page as well. And a few more folks have added to their comments to that, and we'll share some of those with you coming up a little bit later on. 8:12 in the morning here on the Watchdog Morning Show. And I have a couple of questions for my friend Brad McElhenney from West Virginia Metro News. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Howard.
Got a couple of questions about this Mitch Carmichael story before we get into sort of the nuts and bolts and the details of it. What is a stuck-on personality?
I am stuck on Band-Aid brand because Band-Aid's stuck on me. I hope they give me. I hope they give me some royalties out of singing that on your show. And
we often our Facebook Live feed often gets cut off because we're using music not allowed to by us. So you may have just shut us down. I'm not sure.
That shows how many brain cells have gone toward various items of pop culture through the years. But, stuck on. So, I mean, the governor has his way of talking, and I think he means that Mr. Carmichael has relentless enthusiasm and said that he is stuck on. So you can imagine an on button where you try as you might.
I got you.
Can't
he
turn
is
it
stuck
off.
on. I get it now. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's true.
And
I guess that's true.
I mean, this is West Virginia's top development job, and largely it's when companies reach out. A lot of it has to do with we're a very mountainous state, and so here is a small parcel of flat land where you may be able to build your factory, but also helping companies sort through their tax situations, any tax breaks that they may be eligible for. And what I'm getting at is to be stuck on, to be relentlessly enthusiastic is going to be a real attribute for this job.
Now, the quote you have in the in your story today, we feel like with his personality and his stuck on personality and everything, he can really bring some oomph to us here. Now, Biff had another question for you. Biff, what was your question for Brad?
Brad, when the interpreter heard that, how do you sign language the word oomph?
You know, I got to go back. And look. And when I was writing it, when I was putting it into pixels, I had to figure out the the sort of punctuation of stuck on, as well as how do you spell oomph. At first I had UMPH, and then I decided maybe it's more of a OOMPH.
Oomph.
Yeah, and that's where I left it. But I wasn't looking at the sign language interpreters. It's a good question because I had apparently caught the governor off guard with this question, and he had intended to make this announcement part of his State of the State speech. So he kind of stammered at first and then gave his signature looking off to the left, which I think is where he was kind of looking for some guidance from someone, sort of a phone a friend, about, well, where do I go from here? To his credit, I mean, he didn't deny it and went ahead and said, yeah, we're hiring Mitch Carmichael for our development office job, and eventually rallied and just acknowledged out loud, well, I had meant to make that as part of my State of the State speech, which is a week from yesterday. And this kind of news, I'm not quite sure how that was going to just lay there unattended for a week and a half, but that's what he had
Because
intended.
Carmichael's already on the job, right?
He is already on the job. The state, there's a state online phone and email directory where you can look up somebody's name, figure out how to get a hold of them. And he is on there with the new role listed. And I have heard this is the time of year where you have legislative preview events, and there are some meant for media, but there are others meant for development organizations, things like that. And I have heard that he has been participating in those with not hiding at all that he's got this new role as West Virginia's lead development officer. And if you're speaking to those kind of groups, it makes sense to say, hey, I'm here, here's my card, give me a call, we'll work together. So he has been out and about. So to think that it was going to remain a secret for another week was unlikely.
Apparently this may not be the only, I won't say staffing change, but not the only change in the way some personnel are working. Is that correct in this second term?
That seems to be correct, and we're going to spoil more of the State of the State. Sorry, Governor. But what I have heard and have partially confirmed is that this job development director has been sort of a subcategory of the State Department of Commerce. So under the current setup, Mitch Carmichael would work for his ex-Senate colleague, Ed Gaunch, the State Commerce Secretary. Mm-hmm. And there's already been one move. Mitch's job previously was held by Mike Graney, who was formerly in private business in the oil and gas industry. But Graney is moving up to deputy director under Gaunch, so that's one move already. But what we are beginning to hear, and House Speaker Hanshaw strongly hinted at it, almost said it yesterday during a legislative look-ahead media event, is the governor is going to propose legislation that would move the development office also to a cabinet-level position. And it'll be not only the sort of working with companies, working with them to find developable land, not only that kind of stuff, but also a stronger capacity for broadband development in the state. So that will be another cabinet-level position. And then the Division of Tourism for years has been within the Department of Commerce, and this is the part that Roger Hanshaw pretty much said out loud, but the proposal will be to move that up to a cabinet-level position. So, it's kind of like Oprah, like, you get a cabinet-level position, you get to be a cabinet secretary, you get to be a cabinet secretary. And West Virginia is always hungry for economic development, for this broadband expansion, for promoting tourism, and there's an argument to be made to strengthening those duties, but it also is really a lot of kingdoms.
There is a tendency, I think, to quickly say, wait a minute, Carmichael was sent back home by his constituents. They didn't want him there any longer. I mean, he lost his primary, and he certainly had created some enemies over the last few years, particularly during the teacher strikes. There is that tendency. On the other hand, the reality is he has a business development background, working with CityNet. And did he not work with another communications company prior to CityNet, I think?
Yeah,
So,
he briefly, very briefly, worked for Frontier, and then popped over to CityNet.
So he has a business development background, and as you point out, broadband is going to be a big issue that there seems to be some bipartisan consensus on. The details may get fought over politically, but that seems to be an issue that both parties feel is critical. So he has background there too. So again, there's the political side of it that says, hey, wait a minute, his constituents sent him home. Why would the governor bring him back? On the other hand, he does have some background that maybe fits in with an economic development job.
Yeah, and he made the teachers mad over other things. It was the 2 years ago, the pay raises for teachers. What the Senate was offering was not adequate enough, as well as the stability of PEIA, the public insurance. And then the next year, it was, the Senate really wanted that overall education package that included charter schools, and that resulted in a strike. And teachers, in all that, he was a focal point, a lightning rod. They didn't like his demeanor. But on the other hand, if he encountered teachers on the sidewalk outside the Capitol, he would stop and talk and explain his position. He would invite teachers into his office and talk to them.
That's that stuck on personality, I guess.
That's the stuck on personality. But overall, bad reviews from teachers. But this is a different role. I will say there is a grand tradition of people who've lost their legislative races can sometimes wind up in heading an agency. And that's been the case of Ed Gaunch, who lost a Senate race in Kanawha County a few years ago. Jill Upson, who lost a House of Delegates race from Jefferson County a few years ago, wound up as the minority office agency head for justice. You see it at the federal level. So this is not necessarily a new thing, but I can understand the frustration of teachers who think we got rid of this guy and his constituents didn't even want him, and here he is with a soft landing.
And I don't hold this against him because circumstances change, but it is interesting to note. In fact, if you check Carmichael's Twitter account, it's still his old Senate account, and the top tweet still is, there have been rumors that I'm going to be chief of staff in the Justice Administration, but I have no interest in that. I want to continue doing my work for CityNet. Now, obviously, circumstances change, and I don't necessarily hold him like it wasn't a promise he made, but there was some irony, I think, in that he had said he wasn't going to get a job in the administration, then he eventually did.
That's pretty funny. I wrote my story quickly yesterday in between events, and in the evening I remembered, it just came to mind, that tweet, and I thought, I should have put that in the story because that was just months ago, and it was a different position. It was chief of staff with the governor, which was rumored at the time. But it was a pretty strong statement that he was happy with his current job and didn't intend to leave it. I think this is different. This may be more in line with his passion and his business growth interest. The broadband focus may be different, but he has not yet said so. In fact, he hasn't said anything, and that's a little bit strange for him because he would be happily interviewed by a potted plant. And I texted him yesterday.
Occasionally was, yes.
Yeah, I said, hey, congratulations. Do you want to say anything about this? And I haven't heard back yet. And then WMOV Radio's Joe Stevens, who covers that area of the state where Mitch is from, has a good relationship. And Joe was telling me he has not heard anything yet and invited Mitch to talk. It may just be that it's kind of a weird and awkward moment where the governor's office had not intended to make this public yet. But, he's obviously, he started on the job Monday and has been making the rounds to some of these business groups. So, to continue to be hamstrung and not able to say anything, it's a little weird.
Yeah, well, maybe he was waiting for the governor to make the announcement, and now that it's made, maybe we'll hear more. Or maybe he'll have something to say at the state of this. How's the state? This just popped into my head. How is the state of the state going to be done? Is it going to be a virtual thing this year?
That is what I intended to be my question for the governor yesterday. I wanted to know, given the approach of the legislative session, is the Capitol still really going to be largely closed to the public? And then what do you intend to do with your State of the State address? What I've heard is it's likely to go on as usual, and the only change would be that legislators have been allowed to have a guest on the House floor with them at their desks or whatever, and I don't think that's going to be allowed this year, but it's still a lot of people all in one room. The House of Delegates, it's in the House chamber, which is a little bigger, but then the Senate comes in, 34 members of the Senate, the governor and his top-level officials and special guests, the Supreme Court comes in, other elected office holders. Given the needs for social distancing, it's a lot of people in that one room, even if you don't allow guests, and then lobbyists are sometimes up in the gallery. So I have a hard time visualizing how that's safe or good, but I really haven't heard of any change.
Well, because both the Senate and House leadership have talked about how COVID and the social distancing rules and mask wearing and everything else are going to impact the upcoming session, and how they're going to have to adjust for that. I mean, the bodies themselves are not going to be conducting business as in the normal fashion, let's put it that way. So the State of the State, again, it just popped into my head. I guess great minds think alike, since it was in yours too, but just popped into my head. How's he going to do that? We'll have to wait and see. I have a text from a listener here. Howard, maybe Mitch needs a few more years to get a bigger state retirement.
That is also certainly a benefit here, and he's got about 20 years in the legislature, first in the House and then in the Senate. And Kabler actually has a better explanation of this in his story today than I do. But Mitch apparently was making $45,000 a year in his most recent time as Senate president. What his predecessor in the development office was making was, I think, this is according to memory, $106,000 a year. But then, you can imagine that if this position is bumped to a cabinet level position, then the pay may grow accordingly. Right. To simplify it, what people are always looking for in state government is their top 3 years, because that tends to boost the rate of your pension. And so if he were to stay in this for 3 years, justice with a new 4-year term, it would be a pretty sizable and decent pension.
And I guess the reality is that's the way it works. I mean, again, a temptation, if you want to make politics out of it, to criticize Carmichael for maybe gaming the system or something. But the truth of the matter is, it's the way the system works. And if it's gaming the system, he is not the only one on that team.
That is meant to be a perk so that these jobs can be competitive. And certainly you could argue that in a state as economically challenged as West Virginia is, the development office director is a really key position. Now, having said that, it does not sound like there was really a nationwide or statewide search to fill this role. Sounds like, it was Mitch's to be had. So, that, to me, that lessens the argument that it needs to have these perks that maybe are not in the private sector if you're not going to use them to try to be competitive. But as you say, that's the way it is. And I don't know really the ins and outs of his CityNet job, but have heard that it was fairly well compensated. So to give up CityNet job for the other job, there's got to be some reasons.
Yeah, well, again, and pension would be part of it. I don't think I saw Kabler, so I have to look that up just out of curiosity. He always takes a little different approach sometimes than everybody else does. So, have to take a look at that.
He's been on this kind of story for years, and seems to have the pension calculations written on the back of his hand. So he was much more attuned to quickly trying to figure out the pension situation. I think he suggested that maybe it may wind up with that math that I described, about a $48,000 a year pension, which is higher than the annual salary of a lot of West Virginians currently in the workforce.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. What do you expect from the governor in the State of the State speech? Of course, he was going to talk about Mitch Carmichael, but you screwed him up on that one. So. What else do you expect? Any thoughts on what we're going to hear from the governor? Any rumors circulating around there? You mentioned the Division of Tourism maybe getting a bump up, but what else are you hearing? Anything, or what are your guesses? If no knowledge.
The Mitch thing seems to be part of a larger plan, and we're now spoiling that as a surprise too. But I think the governor still can express that as a major goal and something he wants to do. He does seem to be quite passionate about broadband, and there is significant support on both sides of the aisle in the legislature. I think it's going to be also, frankly, a lot of what you've heard, the successes of the vaccine rollout, West Virginia's relative stability during the coronavirus pandemic. The thing with the income tax, I'm still trying to stick my finger in the wind and gauge that. When the governor was on with Hoppy a few weeks ago, he still sounds very interested in it. I'll start there. But I was satisfied to hear that he understands that it's not as easy as just saying we're going to do it, that you'd either, you got to pay for it somehow. You've either got to cut a bunch of things, or you've got to raise other taxes, or both. Or some sort of population growth miracle, which, you can't guarantee. So what I heard from the governor when he was talking about that was a decent degree of realism and not necessarily ready to wrap his arms around it and run with it. I don't know how he may express that, if at all, during the State of the State. To hear Senator Blair, the new Senate president, talk about it, and to hear House Speaker Henshaw, it still sounds like it's taking shape in terms of some sort of plan. I mean, our leaders still talk about it, but going into the beginning of the legislative session next week, it doesn't really sound like it's like, well, here's exactly what we're going to do, and we just need to move it through committees and alter it a little bit. It sounds like it's still being cobbled together in the garage.
Yeah, I mean, Craig Blair at one point, the Senate president, had said, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're closer to this than I am, but at one point he had said that they would look to reduce it, but not to increase any other taxes. But there was that survey sent to Republican members asking which of the following increases would you, or ways of paying for this, would you prefer? My sense with Blair was that, hey, we're just going to do this and we'll let it work its way out at the budget process in terms of where we're going to find the cuts. But it sounds to me like they're actually still looking at whether it's a sales tax increase or some other form of balancing of the loss of money. It sounds like that. I guess I'm just repeating what you said. It sounds to me like they're not fully formed in terms of what exactly it is they want to do.
Yeah, I think that's the case. When Senator Blair talked about it during legislative look ahead, which is a preview, a couple of days ago, he did not indicate that it would be like we're just going to cut it in one fell swoop. Did tie it to population growth somehow. Seemed to talk about cushioning the blow, not necessarily by raising the taxes you already pay, but seemed to want to rely on visitors to West Virginia. I think paying more sales tax somehow, as well as he talked about some things that are exchanges of money under the radar that aren't necessarily taxed. And I mean, you can imagine that some people are paying their house cleaners or their babysitters, or if it's a significant amount, I don't mean like a Friday night, but like if you've got a babysitter Monday through Friday and you're paying them cash, those kinds of things seem to be what Blair was getting at. I mean, those are areas where money seeps through the system, but I don't see necessarily how you make enough out of that to make up for a sales tax cut. Again,
isn't the income tax like 43% of our budget? I might be wrong about the number, but it's a hefty percentage. Let's put it that way.
It is, yeah. It's of the general fund, and the budgeting is tricky, but the general fund is the main thing we look at. It's about 43%. It's about $2 billion a year. So to just, whack it, then it would take some combination of really serious cuts. And the ones that were on the House survey would you even consider this? Were like completely defunding West Virginia University and Marshall, completely cutting the Promise Scholarship, a variety of other cuts that I frankly think would be politically unpopular, particularly.
Yeah, I can't see that happening.
I
just can't see that.
So I mean, maybe there's a way to get there with some combination of all the things, but I haven't seen it written on the back of an envelope or otherwise. How you get this math to come together?
I'm all in favor of finding the waste and fraud, and we always talk about that, and I'm sure there is some there. I like your word a minute or two ago. There's always leakage of some kind, but you can't make up 43% of your budget by closing off the leakage and eliminating, being more efficient in some areas. It's just not possible. Hey, I got to run, Brad. I know you do too. Again, I'm always sorry for keeping you so long. It's just you're such a good conversationalist here. I always enjoy talking to you. And,
thank you.
I suspect now that the session is
off air. I was talking to Biff about counting cows. So maybe when you release the bonus episode, you can include that.
Oh, the counting cows. Okay, all right. Well, we'll check into that. I suspect since the State of the State comes next week, and then there's at least the beginning of the session, and I'm not sure how much is going to get done, but we'll probably be talking a good bit more over the next few weeks and maybe the next month or so. So thank you, as always, for your time today, though. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Howard. Count the cows.
All right. All right. Thanks, Brad. I got to find out what that's all about when we come back here on the Watchdog Morning Show. It's 8:37, 23 before the hour. We're looking at, let me double check. We were at 14 degrees last time I checked. Let me see. Oh, we've gone up to a whopping 16. 16 degrees. Feels like it is 5. The feels like temperatures have gone down. We now don't need the extra thumb. Just one hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The feels like temperature, 5 degrees. 16 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, and at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling, in the heart of the Ohio Valley. A country music star banned on quite a few radio stations around the country, the big ones, from some of the big corporate companies, because he used the N-word. We'll talk about that in a bit, and I got to find out, Biffy, what counting the cows is all about. So all of that is coming up. But first, Ohio Valley headlines from the Big 7, and Tony is in with the Morning Mountaineer Report.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now it's time.
Okay. What, all right. Well, that'll give us something to get into in the next segment. Bless his heart. You know, the governor has all kinds of, he certainly has a way with words, doesn't he? All right, we'll hold that quote. We'll use that coming up after the break. Oh boy, maybe he's got some in a pen at the Greenbrier someplace, you know. All right, I'm going to... oh, God. Oh, that's good. So it was on our... Oh, it's good. So, yeah. I'm sure the congressmen are going, what the hell's that guy talking about? What's he saying? Count the egg-sucking cow legs. What the hell's he talking about? All right. Now that gives us a good segment coming up. We'll do that coming up next. I got to step away from it. I'll be back in a second. All right, I'm back, Biff. Okay. It's so Jim Justice. Oh, God.
Teams, and the fifth played here in the state of West Virginia. West Virginia played Florida in the 1960s twice at the old Charleston Civic Center and once in the new Charleston Civic Center. That was 2002 when John Beeline posted his first major victory as West Virginia's coach. Joe Harebear's late three-pointer helped stun the 8th-rated Gators by a final of 68-66 in a game which featured the homecoming of St. Albans standout Brett Nelson. Florida has won 6 of the 9 encounters in this series and 3 in a row. That is today's Mountaineer Report. It's brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield, IMG College.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster. Weather look at your local weather forecast for your Thursday. A mix of clouds and sunshine through a good portion of the day. Temperatures in the lower 40s for daytime highs, falling back to about 31 for the overnight low. Back into the mid to upper 30s for daytime highs under mostly cloudy skies for your Friday. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The perfect cure for your quarantine blues. The Watchdog on Facebook Live. Watch The Watchdog weekdays on Facebook Live, beginning with the morning show with Howard Monroe at 7 a.m. Local talk radio, Watchdog style. Give us a call and tell us what you're thinking. Locally, 304-214-1600. Out of the area, toll free, 866-514-1600 or 304-232-8255.
Watch out! He could climb on his soapbox at any time. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
16 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Your feels-like temperature is only 5. One hand is all it takes to count those little digits. 16 at the airport here at my home studios in Elm Grove, and 16 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios, downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. The two major things we talked about today. USA Today had a piece yesterday that caught my attention. Apparently smokers are technically given priority in, they're on one of the high priorities for getting the COVID vaccine because they have compromised lungs and compromised other health issues. A lot of folks feel that smokers make that choice and shouldn't get priority vaccines. As I said earlier, I guess if there was all the vaccine in the world available and anybody who wanted it could walk down the street corner and just get the vaccine, then I'd be fine. But I don't know. Smokers make a choice, and but there's a flip side to that too, which is that if a smoker gets COVID, it is more likely to be more debilitating and even more deadly than a healthy person. So maybe it makes sense. So if you want to offer some thoughts on that, 304-214-1600. The other issue we've been talking about is Mitch Carmichael, former Senate president in West Virginia, lost his primary election last spring, and therefore, of course, is no longer in the Senate. But Governor Justice has brought him back as the top dog for the economic development team. And Brad McElwain and I were just talking about that. But apparently I missed the big story. I was all into this Mitch Carmichael thing and a couple other issues, and I thought that's great. But apparently I missed the big story. As so often happens on this show, I've discovered some of the more interesting conversations happen behind the scenes. I sometimes think Brother Biff conducts his own little talk show there in the studios. So apparently, Biff, you and Brad were discussing some comments made by the governor this week having to do with counting cows?
Yeah, this was Governor Justice on Monday, and apparently he was on CNN doing an interview about the COVID relief bill that
right.
Congress was talking about trying to get passed, and a couple of Justice's quotes to CNN. He said, "We have really got to move and get people taken care of," he said.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I like that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good.
And then he said, "I absolutely believe we need to go big."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He said, after that, then he made another, let's see. He said it was ridiculous beyond belief to have Democrats and Republicans fighting and couldn't pass a stimulus package for months. He said it was god-awful.
I'm with him. All this is good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently after he made the it was god-awful comment, and I don't know what prompted this, then he said, and again, this is the quote from our great governor, "At this point in time in this nation, we need to go big. We need to quit counting the egg-sucking legs on the cows and count the cows and just move. And move forward and move right now."
Quit counting the egg-sucking legs on the cow? That's what he said?
Yes, and count the cows and just move.
You just move.
Move forward and move right now.
Right now. No more egg-sucking cow legs. No more eggs. And this, of course, was on a national TV interview.
Yeah, this was on, according to the article from The Hill, it was from CNN on Monday. So when Brad called in, he asked if there were any, if we were counting the cows or saw any cows going down Main Street, and I said no, and he said, well, you probably need just to go out of the city a little bit further before you start actually seeing cows. So, yeah, that was the that's our governor.
I mean, that's it. That's our governor. Wow, we got to stop counting the egg-sucking legs on the cow and just move right now. I can picture the CNN interviewer looking off the side going, what the hell is he talking about? What did he just say there? Anybody know what he's talking about? Egg-sucking cow legs? What is that? Is that some at the Greenbrier? They get a pen of cows, the Greenbrier. What is an egg? First place, what is an egg-sucking cow leg?
I don't know, but could you imagine the person or people in the back trying to Google that just to see what that meant?
Some producer's going, I'd like to get a picture of these egg-sucking cows up on the screen while he's talking. I can't find the egg-sucking cows. Cow legs, egg-sucking cow legs. It's not egg-sucking cows. There might be egg-sucking cows. I don't know. Egg-sucking cow legs. Oh, you gotta love him. I mean, I'm serious about this. I don't know why somebody hasn't yet come out with a book of justicisms, you know? The wit and wisdom of Jim Justice. I mean, just today we've got the egg-sucking cow legs. Mitch Carmichael and his stuck-on personality will bring a lot of oomph to the State House. I mean, it's just every day there's something. And I'm not saying it critically. He's just a folksy kind of guy. A little strange folksyism. Again, I'm not sure what an egg... You know, and those words don't just roll trippingly off your tongue out of nowhere. Somewhere in his past, he's talked about egg-sucking cow legs. Because you don't just make that up on the spot. You know, that's, I don't know. Bless his heart. But as you point out, Biff, it's our governor.
That's him.
That's him. And I mean, a little booklet about, or maybe somebody could do it as a fundraiser. If we're going to cut back on the income tax, we need to raise revenue somehow. Maybe we could sell that book of justice witticisms, huh?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people, it might help them. You know, whenever the governor says something crazy, they could find the page and, there it is.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Egg-sucking cow legs. Add it to the list, folks. Add it to the list. The governor thinks we're going to get some additional COVID vaccines, and I think that's good news. Governor said yesterday that an additional 3,000 a week should come into the state of West Virginia as a result of a new Biden program. President Biden had announced a new policy earlier this week that it will begin shipping coronavirus vaccines directly to retail pharmacies instead of just shipping them to the state and to other and going through a middleman. They will ship them directly to the pharmacies. So that's a new policy from the administration, and Governor Justice says in his calculations he anticipates probably about 3,000 additional doses of vaccine will come into the state of West Virginia as a result of that new policy. 1 million doses worldwide, nationwide, will be added to the list of available vaccines. So that's good. For all practical purposes, it's going to give West Virginia between 2,500 and 3,000 vaccines a week. Justice said yesterday, bring us up to 30,000 doses a week. Now that's good numbers. Not nearly enough yet, but it is good numbers. But so that's good. I mean, additional 3,000 a week, and thank you, President Biden, for that policy. It is interesting. I note though, and one of the reasons that West Virginia has been successful in getting its vaccines out, folks have been saying, is that we have had the ability to get shots in arms because we're using these retail pharmacies directly. We've been instead of using the big pharmacies, which were being used, a lot of the individual retail pharmacies are being used. Over in Ohio, look, mistakes are made, let's be clear about that, but Ohio Governor Mike DeWine says that Walgreens apparently administered compromised vaccines to 5 long-term facilities in the state. Now, none around here. Let's see, 2 in Ashtabula, 1 in Chardon, 1 in East Cleveland, and 1 in Cleveland, all nursing homes. But Walgreens didn't keep the vaccines under proper cold storage, leading to those vaccines being compromised. So, at the same time, the governor is saying he wants to get more vaccines directly to pharmacies. One example, at least, of pharmacies messing up on that. 6 before the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Who do we have, Biffy?
Big Tony.
Big Tony, good morning.
Morning, Howard.
What's up?
Oh, it's regarding Mitch Carmichael. I used to work for Frontier Communications, and I never heard of Mitch Carmichael. I'd been working there for years and never heard the name before, and we were called to a meeting at Wheeling Park, and he was the speaker.
Oh, okay. Is it recently or when he was still president? Or
this was years ago. This was probably 20, 30.
Okay.
Did we?
And
Howard, I think we lost him.
we lost Big Tony there?
I'm still here.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. Okay. And so Mitch came to speak at an event at Wheeling Park.
Yeah, it was just for, Frontier employees. And
right.
Anyway, just after hearing the guy, he was a very good salesman, and I didn't even know he was a politician at the time for the state of West Virginia. But after hearing him for 30 seconds, I'm thinking to myself, man, this guy sounds like a politician. I mean, he was a very mobile, inspirational speaker. Just like you'd want in a salesman or a politician. And I don't know of his technical expertise in the industry. I've been in the wireless business for quite a few years, and but as a salesman and as a politician, I'm sure he's quite accomplished at that.
Well, I mean, look, I disagree with Mitch on most of his political positions when he was in office, in particular his positions on teachers. Having said that, he is a good salesman, and he is a very upbeat, outgoing, friendly, if that's the best word to use, guy. And, I can see him being a good salesman for the state. Again, even though I'm not a fan of his politics and his own constituents sent him home last time around, I get where the governor's coming from and bringing him in.
Yeah, this whole broadband expansion reminds me of, while I was there, they had the massive USDA federal grants for broadband expansion in West Virginia. And, the whole idea of that was to grow the middle mile.
Right.
It was to make the backhaul on fiber this huge pipe so that all the little CLECs and all the other small companies could use it to bring free market and cheaper prices, broadband to everybody. But it didn't happen. The money was not spent 100% on the middle mile. So we didn't see that expansion that we were supposed to see. And that's why eventually they had the problems that they had.
Yeah, I think there's going to be consensus. Oops. Well, now I know he's gone.
Now we lost him.
Now we lost him. Sorry, Big Tony. I apologize for that. Don't know if it was your end or our end, but I certainly was enjoying our conversation. I think that there is widespread consensus on the need to improve broadband and the broadband infrastructure in the state. And Democrats and Republicans, the supermajority and the superminority folks, both agree, I think, on the goal, what they want, which is more broadband access across the state. But I think where we're going to have some serious disagreements and battles is over how to achieve that. To what extent does the state or the government in some way subsidize, get involved with the middle mile delivery system? To what extent do we simply incentivize the private industry to do it? And I don't have answers to that because it's going to depend on the very specific proposals that come out. But I think while there is consensus on the need for broadband infrastructure improvement, and that's good, it means that everybody agrees on the goal. We are going to have some disagreements on how to get there. We'll talk about that and more with Sean Fluharty coming up in the next hour of the show. Also, I have some more COVID stories I want to get into. We'll talk about that straight ahead. But first, we'll head to ABC News. They're going to cover the world for us here. We're the Watchdog Morning Show. It is a Thursday morning, and I am glad you're here for our conversational ride.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Boom, 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 boom. All right, well, I don't know what happened to Big Tony, but yeah. I heard a little, he kind of went dead there for a second. I'm guessing he may have gotten an incoming call and tried to put it on hold and instead ended up hanging up. I've done that myself a few times. You get a second call and you hit the wrong button. One of them says hold and accept, and one of them says accept and get rid of your old call. I'm just making a crazy guess, but because it sounded to me like for a second there that I could almost hear that little, when someone's got a call coming in, you get that little bloop. So, but at any rate, but he was good. It was okay. I was nervous because I got a text here, one of these political texts about AOC and stuff, and I don't want to get into that stuff. And I had this terrible fear that this was going to be, yeah. So that was good. All right. Sean is, as I said, scheduled 9:30. He said that was his. He said, "Well, how about 9:30?" I said, "That's fine. I may try to get to the break early. I don't know. We'll see how Sean works out." Okay. Back in a few minutes.